Good evening and welcome to the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board of Trustees meeting for Monday, April 26th. This meeting will be open to the public during Indiana's ongoing public health emergency as declared by Governor Holcomb. Masks must be worn at all times on Fort Wayne Community School grounds. Social distancing will be practiced at the meeting. Therefore, some members of the public who wish to attend may be excluded. If you plan to attend media, please email Public Information Officer Krista Stockman. All other emails should go to the clerk of the board, Angela Filler. The public is encouraged to view the meeting at Cable Comcast 54 and Frontier 24, the live stream on our Facebook page, or the LTV 2454 Fort Wayne Community Schools YouTube channel. Priority for attendance in person will be given to the members of the media. We'll begin our meeting, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call of members.
Good evening. Steve Corona, 5th District.
Hello, Raleigh Booker, 4th District.
Hello, Jennifer Mathias, District 2.
Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Julie Hollingsworth, District 1.
Noah Smith, District 3.
And to my left is Angela Filler, the clerk of the board, and our superintendent, Dr. Daniel. And I'm Ann Duff, president of the board, and an at-large member as well. See, first on our agenda is our consent agenda, which consists of our vouchers, payroll, and the personnel report. It is recommended that the board approve the vouchers for the periods ending April 12th and April 26th, 2021, and the payroll for the periods ending March 12th, March 26th, and April 9th. The April 26, 2021 voucher list totals $7,170,357.25. The vouchers for the period ending April 12th totals $6,657,806.09, and have been paid and delivered based on the board's prior authorization. The board is now requested to ratify those vouchers. Gross wages and fringe benefits paid by the Fort Wayne Community Schools appear on the following payroll certification documents: ending March 12th, $8,457,076.58; ending March 26th, $8,492,156.33; and payroll ending April 9th, $7,615,448.04. And is there anything on the personnel report, Dr. Daniel, that you'd like to mention?
No, there is not. Thank you.
Okay. And is there a motion on the floor for approval of the consent?
I move for approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we have for first recommendation is recommended that the board hold a public hearing on the second amendment to master lease and the appropriation of all bond proceeds and interest earned on the bond proceeds. It is further recommended that subsequent to the public hearing, the board pass a resolution approving the execution of the second amendment to the master lease with the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board Corporation and other related matters. And the board pass a resolution to approve the appropriation of all bond proceeds and interest earned on the bond proceeds. After voter approval of the 2012 referendum, the board first entered into the master lease on April 29, 2013. Approval of the second amendment allows for financing the projects approved by a majority of the voters who voted on the 2020 referendum. The second amendment provides for a maximum annual lease rental payment of $13,925,000, which is in addition to the maximum annual lease rental payment currently being paid under the master lease for a term not to exceed 20 years from the date each addendum to the second amendment is recorded. This additional annual lease rental payment will provide sufficient annual revenues to allow the Fort Wayne Community Schools Building Corporation to issue bonds in an original aggregate issued amount not to exceed $130 million as approved by the voters. Bond counsel Jeff Kalkenbush of Barnes & Thorburg and the Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend are available to answer questions. This is the appropriate time for members of the public to address the board. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Okay, seeing there are no questions, does the board have any questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Move for approval.
Guess I should ask questions after that.
Second.
And no questions, I'll ask once again. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and I think Jennifer?
You know what? I do have one question. So, is this the last bond issue of from the 2012 referendum? I'm just curious.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Daniels, pleasure to be with you, Jeff Quackenbush, Barnes and Thornburg. This will be the first for the 2020 capital referendum.
Oh, for the 2020.
Yes, but
Gotcha.
why this was referencing back to the 2012 is that was the first time you'd entered into the master lease for
Okay,
all
so
of
the
these
master
programs.
lease has just been
Amended.
continuing since we started it in 2012?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And it's currently contemplated that there may be as many as 4 to 5 bond issues done over the next several years. All in aggregate would not exceed the $130 million that was approved by the voters in May of 2020.
Okay, did we vote?
Yes, we did.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm getting confused. Okay.
No, I confused
And
you
I'm
by asking my question.
Yeah,
late.
I'm going to assign as we go, but I did assign to Jennifer no. So Jennifer is going to do Apple iPads and cases.
It is recommended that the board approve the purchase of 4,493 Apple iPads, including setup services, and 3,693 iPad cases with the keyboard from Apple of Cupertino, California for $1,643,468.06. This purchase consists of 693 iPads and cases for the last purchase for the 5th year of a 5-year technology plan, 3,000 iPads and cases for replacing older student iPads, making them available for use by elementary media centers for the summer reading program, 200 iPads for K through 2 teacher replacements, and 600 iPads for preschool students. Cases for the K through 2 teacher iPads and preschool student iPads will be purchased separately as they do not require a keyboard. Apple Inc. is the sole source provider for iPads. Indiana law does not require bidding for purchases made from sole source providers. Funding will come from the Common School Fund and ESSER 2. Questions can be addressed to Jack Bird, Director of Technology.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, any questions?
So Jack, we're replacing the older student iPads, but we're then putting those older iPads in elementary media centers for summer reading programs. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
So will they continue to stay there summer after summer until they eventually just die out?
Yeah, eventually, we will no longer be able to keep the operating system up to date. But, you know, as we replace other iPads, we'll move those into the media center.
Great.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I didn't look ahead to see if you're, don't you have several things coming up here, Jack?
I do.
Okay. I only mention that because Noah lost his internet connection.
I got it.
Oh, okay, problem solved.
Just checking to see if that was an item on the
We
agenda.
were gonna, I was gonna put you to work, but he solved it.
Any other pertinent questions? All right, thank you, Jack. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Steve, do you want to do C?
Okay. It is recommended that an award be made to the 2 lowest responsible and responsive respondents for the purchase of internet services for the district. And we have 2 companies that submitted an interest. Comcast Business Communication Systems for $218,700. And then for the secondary provider, it looks like Zayo, like mayo. Is that right, Jack?
It is.
And their proposal is for $184,680. So those are the 2 lowest responsible and responsive respondents. Some background information. The purchase of primary and secondary internet service is for the entire district. The contracts are 3-year contracts paid in 3 equal annual payments. For Comcast, that would be $72,990 a year, and for Zayo, it would be $61,560 a year. For the primary internet, the federal government will provide a 90% discount on this cost as a part of the Universal Service Fund program. Secondary internet service will provide internet connection resiliency in the event that one of our internet connections goes offline. And board members have additional information. It looks like we had several bidders there, and you can see that with the 2 bidders above being the recommendation from the administration.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
I move for approval.
Second.
All right. Any questions?
Jack, I did have a couple questions. Have we always had a backup or a secondary internet service?
We have had a connection with AceNet, which is the consortium of the county school districts here. The problem with that connection is it is a very limited connection, and it's only 100 megabytes.
Okay.
And if we would go down, if our main Comcast connection would go down, that could not handle the traffic of the school system.
Okay. And is there any additional hardware or wires or connections that we need to make to have to put in the secondary internet service?
Not initially. In the future, to really increase resiliency, where we can do load balancing and those types of things, we would purchase routers for that. Right now, we're using just normal switches, but we would purchase more high-end routers that would be able to do our load balance and that type of thing, but that's in the future.
And about how many times a year have we had to utilize the AceNet because the service or our internet service went down?
We have never utilized AceNet for the district. Right now, the district traffic that we put out on the AceNet connection is our BYOD connection, but we have never transferred the main line to AceNet. It would just
Crash the whole thing.
yes.
Yeah.
And then other school districts would be upset with us.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So this is good for us. Okay.
Will this new Zayo be able to handle the district in the event of first?
Yes, some of the other school districts, in fact, Zayo is the internet provider for the AceNet connection. Zayo has not so far proved as reliable as Comcast, because Comcast, we have hardly had any issues with our main internet connection. Zayo has been a little bit more problematic, but not overly.
So you indicated the AceNet couldn't have handled our main traffic
Correct.
as of today, but will Zayo be able to do that?
Yes, they will both be 10 gig circuits, so they'll be equal circuits.
Any other questions? All right, thank you again, Jack. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and Raleigh, would you do D?
It is recommended that the board approve the purchase of 500 Lenovo ThinkPad Yoga 11E laptops from Process of Indianapolis for $224,150. The purchase of these laptops will be used to replace unrepairable or lost student laptops that are not covered by device insurance. Fort Wayne Community Schools was able to secure pricing that was below General Service Administrative pricing. Indiana law does not require public bidding for purchases made at or below GSA pricing. Funding will come from ESSER 2. And Jack Bird is here to answer questions.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
I move.
Second.
Okay, any questions?
So do we have a, oh, go ahead. I mean, do we have an estimate right now of how many, so we think out of what, 30,000 plus left? No, we don't have that many.
We have
How many do
about 28,000
Okay,
laptops
okay.
and iPads in use right now by students. And we've had about as of this morning we checked, we have about a 4.8 to 5% breakage rate. So we're looking at roughly 800 devices.
Okay. So we've already got enough extra to replace.
Yes,
We don't, so, because this is just for 500, so this will
Right.
give us enough
yes.
to probably cover us for this year.
Last board meeting, I believe, or maybe it was the board meeting in March, we purchased our annual allotment for the 5-year technology plan. So between that purchase and this purchase, we should have enough to cover.
What percentage of our students do, I'm curious, get the insurance?
It's very low. I think, Kathy, it was 11%. 11%.
And how was that insurance? How did we, I mean, do we feel like it was able to subside the repairable and the loss, or, I mean, obviously not the loss, but the repairs, how did that work?
The program worked fine. We're looking at other options for next school year, as the company didn't always provide quality repair work. So we are looking at other options.
What is the cost of insurance if a parent wants to insure?
I believe for the 11E, it's $26, and believe it or not, for the iPad, it's approaching $30.
So was the same insurance company repairing the iPads as the Lavina, or was it Apple doing repair?
It was the same company.
Same?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks again, Jack. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and Maria, do you want to do the ThinkPad laptops for New Tech Northrop?
It is recommended that the board approve the purchase of 290 ThinkPad P15 laptop computers from ProSize of Indianapolis for $462,840. This purchase consists of 110 student laptops for the New Tech program at Wayne and 180 student laptops for the Project Lead the Way engineering at Northrop High School. These laptops meet the special specifications for the software used in the program's curriculum. FWCS was able to secure pricing that is below General Services Administration pricing. Indiana law does not require public bidding for purchases made at or below GSA pricing. Funding for the New Tech laptops will come from the Common School Fund, and funding for the Project Lead the Way laptops will come from ESSER 2. And Jack is still here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. And any questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and Julie, you want to do the TI-84 graphing calculators?
It's recommended that an award be made to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder for the purchase of 1,590 graphing calculators. These are from, the company providing them is the Bach Company in Palo Alto, California, for $196,683. These Texas Instruments TI-84 Plus graphing calculators will be used by students in 9th and 10th grade math programs to improve learning and for use during SAT and ACT testing. Funding will come from the Gear Up grant. Invitations to bid were sent to 9 prospective bidders with 5 responding, and you can see those companies below and their bids. Shanita Bolton, manager of K-12 College and Career Readiness, and the Gear Up grant, and Joanne Philhauer, curriculum coordinator, are available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a motion for approval?
So move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, so Shanita, we just bought a bunch of computers. We couldn't add a program onto the computers for the graphing stuff.
Could you ask that question once again? No, I'm sorry.
So we just bought a bunch of computers. Can we now have added a program to the computers for the graphing requirements, or?
Well,
We're
specifically,
just buying calculators as well, sorry.
right now, specifically with the grant, written into the grant is partnership with working with Texas Instruments, and they've already done some workshops for us this year, so we are extending that to the classroom. You want to add to that, Joanne?
We do have some online calculators that teachers use, but students aren't always able to use online resources like PSAT, ACT, so it also gives them practice using a handheld calculator as well. So it gives them
So you
options.
can't take the computer into the SAT, but you can take this calculator?
Yep.
Okay, that's kind of a big point there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Important tool, thank you.
But I was going to ask the same question, but for a different reason, because these TI-84 calculators are only going to be used in the classrooms, right? They're classroom sets. So if a student's at home, I assume we have some sort of, they would have some sort of software on their, school-issued laptop that would mirror a TI-84, or at least a graphing calculator?
So I will let
True.
Joanne respond to the classroom piece. The big piece for us, particularly when you're thinking about practice PSAT and SAT, that is part of it within the classroom, but then
Right.
also there's a coding element to this that students will experience through classroom experiential learning in the curriculum. You want to add to that?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is we have met with TI at various times, and there are ways to mirror the calculator onto the computers, so we'll have to work with them to see if that's a possibility with this calculator, and if students are able to use that at home, depending on their Wi-Fi. If they have Wi-Fi, that might be an issue. But we can work with TI to see if that's an option with these calculators as well.
So that I'm clear, these are classroom and they stay in the classroom. They're not being
Yes.
distributed to the children? Okay, so these are 9th and 10th graders. What do those students do when they go to the SAT or they take the SAT, which is not necessarily in the classroom, and they need a graphing calculator that are quite expensive? What do those students do, or what have we done in the past? I know that this is coming from the Gear Up grant, and that's specific to 9th and 10th graders, but 11th and 12th graders also take the test as well. What do they do? Or how are these going to benefit those students?
So our hope is, and the way that it was written is because this was geared for classroom sets that actually will not only, it'll serve them this coming year for 9th and 10th, but then also based upon the math classes, will also serve them that 11th grade and possible 12th grade. We did speak actually in regards to this of ways we can incorporate this on testing days for our students if necessary. So we will look into that as well.
That's great, great. Thank you.
Are these the colored calculators?
You mean the screens are colored, or?
Yep, screen, right.
I'm gonna have to double check that for sure. I can't
I'm
remember.
just curious because they just seem very expensive.
Yeah.
So I got on Amazon because I know I paid $100 for my kids. And if they're colored, that's a reasonable price, but if they're not, we're paying too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll have to check on that, 'cause I can't remember for sure. I didn't think they were in color, but we'll have to check to be sure.
So also to be clear, the idea is to get these in the classroom for the kids to practice and use in preparation for PSAT, SAT, ACT. However, as it's written now, they won't be able to use and borrow those calculators when they go actually take the test, or?
If we allow that to happen, it will definitely be someone who is also observation for that, because we don't want those calculators to walk away once they're purchased.
And they'll also be used in the classrooms for some of the math standards that require technology, so they'll
I
be
guess
used for
we're
multiple
giving
purposes.
$1,000 computers to kids to take home, why not $100 calculators, is my question.
I would say we have not explored the take-home option, so
Okay.
that's something we could go back and discuss if you would like us to do so.
Do we have enough current TA84 calculators what about our 9th grade students? Because they are taking, we have a lot of 9th graders, well, probably all of them, are taking algebra. Do they have classroom sets of calculators also?
Not as of now, that's why we wanted to get them for them. So all the classes, so
I'm
algebra
sorry,
1, algebra 2.
8th grade. I mean 8th grade.
Oh.
Yes. So what about 8th grade algebra students?
So no, we do not have those now, and because the Gear Up grant follows the cohort, we can't make a purchase of TI calculators because the rising Gear Up cohort is now going to be 9th and 10th graders next year.
Okay.
And so this will go just into the Gear Up schools, is that correct?
All 5 high schools have Gear Up students, correct? So it will go to the high schools.
Okay, yes, thank you for that. We have one middle school that's not involved in the Gear Up grant, right?
Correct.
So, and Rod, who is our purchasing person, thank you, Rod, he just looked those up because he also did the bidding for us, and they are colored, to answer your question previously, President.
I got to see one of those. Have you seen one in color
I've
yet?
seen that. Oh.
I haven't either.
I do have a question. I was one of those students that had to buy the calculator myself, and it was definitely a stretch for my family to be able to afford the calculator. So first off, I just want to say thank you, and that this is going to be great for our students. But second, I know the summer before I took that algebra class, I had to take computer programming. So, and I know that you mentioned that there would be some programming stuff. Is it still required that students take computer programming, or will that be incorporated into the curriculum?
It'll be incorporated into, as they need it in the math classrooms, it'll be incorporated in.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank
and...
you.
Oh, yeah, thank you, sorry. Julie,
What?
would you do textbook adoption rental fees, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's recommended that the board adopt proposed materials for the 2021 to 27 school years for use in grades K through 12 world language. Oh, this is not the updated version. Sorry about that. So we're adopting proposed materials and rental rates for the 21 to 27 school years for use in grades K through 12 world language, K through 12 ELL, and for 21 to 26, grades 6 through 12 music. A textbook adoption committee was facilitated by the curriculum department. Teams of Fort Wayne Community School teachers reviewed the instructional materials using a 6-step process. They utilized multiple gateway selection tools to gather data concerning real-world application, standards, and usability. This data was used to support the recommendation of textbooks and related materials for the adoption. Families unable to pay student fees may apply for financial assistance. The state of Indiana reimburses the textbook rental fund for a portion of the textbook rental charges for qualified students, and the remainder is supplemented from the education fund. The Fort Wayne Community School textbook adoption process addresses District Goal 1, achieve and maintain academic excellence. Questions will be answered by Julie Shurick and Amelia Flieger, curriculum coordinators, and Tricia Kever, textbook rental coordinator.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have some. I guess I'm just curious with today's technology, how many textbooks are, I mean, what, you're actually buying physical books?
For ELL and world language, we are purchasing class sets for the majority of our content and grade levels to use in addition to the digital licenses.
Okay.
We also are purchasing consumable texts for the lowest level English learners so that they have text in hand that they can also write in for language acquisition.
What, could you just, I'm first new on the board, so could you talk a little about how you guys come about selecting these particular books or tools to use with the students?
Okay, we actually started the process over a year ago and looked at all of the options that were out there and narrowed it down to 5 to 6 options that were well reputable and address the standards. In the fall this year, we gave the opportunity to any of our ELL and language teachers who are interested to participate in the process. And we were able to do that because we had all virtual meetings this year, so space wasn't an issue. We then had between 4 and 6 sessions with publishers for each language content and grade level, and that was through December. And they were live sessions, but we also recorded them and posted them on the LMS so that any teacher could view those. After the publisher presentations, teachers were given the opportunity to fill out Gateway 1, which really addressed the philosophies behind language acquisition and cursory coverage of the standards. In January and February, they met to discuss the options and dig a little deeper and really dug into the standards and how well each resource addressed the standards. At the end of February, they looked closer at usability, technology, as well as supporting student and teachers. And at that time, we also worked with the technology department to be sure that all technology would work on our student and teacher laptops and iPads. And then in March, each gateway we had narrowed it down to the top choices from each gateway, and we were left with just a couple options for each. And we met virtually again to make our final decisions and then determine what PL we needed.
Thank you. But these are real actual textbooks still, right?
Like I said, most of our subject areas, I believe there's maybe 2 that are all digital, but the other languages and contents have a class set of books that will be kept in the teacher classroom, as well as digital licenses that students will be able to access at home.
Out of curiosity, how long have you been in this role for the district?
This is my 3rd year as curriculum coordinator.
Okay. Are prices going down because more things are going digital, or?
No, prices are going up.
Okay. I'm curious about that. Thank you for your presentation.
Any other questions?
Just to address the music information for 6 through 12, those are consumable materials that are handed out to students so that they can write and make notes as they are learning their instruments and furthering their, just furthering their instruction with their instruments. So.
Do those come from a publisher clearinghouse or someone like Sweetwater?
It comes from actually Alfred Music. We utilize MyNet Music with Sweetwater in order to order the books, but they're through Alfred Music, and the teachers chose Sound Innovations with them.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
No other questions? Okay, thank you, ladies.
I move we approve.
Second.
Oh, didn't do that yet?
Way ahead, Ann.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I have to tell you, we worked hard this weekend, my husband and I, and I'm physically exhausted, but I think I'm over that now, but my brain is still tired, so I'm like just a little bit in la la land this evening. But anyway, next, Candace Hagar, our Director of Nutrition Services, will be doing a presentation on the Nutrition Services Department. So thank you, Candace. Look forward to hearing from you.
Looks like my cohorts knew I was going to talk, so they all left.
Yes, your reputation preceded you.
Yeah, there you go. Well, at first I want to say thank you, President Duff, Vice President Norman, and Secretary Hollingsworth, and the rest of the board, and Dr. Daniels, for the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our world in nutrition services. I'm going to turn this little thing on here. And I entitled my presentation today, A Year in the Life of Nutrition Services, but it's really going to span a couple different years because I'm going to give you an idea of what the impact of COVID had on nutrition services as well. So our mission statement is Nutrition Services facilitates learning by providing nutritious, affordable meals and nutrition education for students, staff, and the community. And I also wanted to share our vision because the mission statement is totally different from our vision. Nutrition Services will actively contribute to children's well-being by providing and promoting good nutritional choices, physical activity, and by advocating for the lifelong adoption of a healthy lifestyle. Through education, children will be taught the importance of adopting and maintaining a healthy lifestyle and how it positively influences their cognitive development, self-esteem, and social and physical growth, both now as youngsters and into their adulthood. So your first question should be, what do we do all day? Well, we serve meals through the cafeteria. In a normal year, we offer meals through our cafeterias consisting of 1 entree choice in the elementaries and 4 to 5 choices of entrees in secondary schools. We also offer a la carte sales in our secondary schools, and also in a normal year, we offer the fresh fruit and veggie program, a snack program to support the Pathways to Quality, which is a Title I initiative. We provide tours of our production facilities to students at second and third grade level. And anyone else who wants to come, we'll show you what we do. Normally, we have a bake sale to raise monies for the book bag program in December, just before the winter break. It's always nice to have goodies for Christmas and family coming. And lastly, but not least, we offer a robust classroom education program where when invited, our registered dietitians go into the classrooms with various educational options. Kathy Gilbert is here with us tonight to explain some of those educational offerings. So Kathy, take it away.
I'm dressed for the occasion. Good evening.
Good evening.
I know. Now I have to figure this thing out. Okay. So yeah, nutrition education. This year we haven't been able to do it. We've had some teachers begging, but we just couldn't really figure out a COVID-safe way to do that. So that's been on hold this year, and I personally have missed out a lot. We do, as Candy said, this is all done from teachers just inviting us into their classroom. It usually happens in coordination with something else that they're studying. So in high schools, we go into health classes, again, normally when they're studying nutrition. It's kind of morphed over the years, but we review like just basic nutrition. Sometimes we talk about My Plate. You're all familiar with My Plate, My Healthy Plate. So just like what a healthy diet looks like. And I have started really when I talk to high school students, focusing on why we eat other than being hungry and how marketing impacts what we eat. And it is really fun to talk to high school students about marketing because I'm always surprised. They're so savvy about some things and so oblivious about other things. And this program, every time when I go, I try to make sure it's up to date. So the very last time that I did it before COVID, it was actually the week before COVID, I got down this rabbit hole of something I had no idea existed. So I learned things as well. I learned that gamer nutrition is a thing. I had no idea. There are supplements marketed specifically to gamers. And there are YouTube channels that talk about nutrition for gaming. And it was really interesting to talk to students because there was definitely a cohort of students that knew about that, but most of them did not. So just being able to talk to students and kind of engage with that and keep kind of on top of the sort of things that they are into and hear and learn about is always very interesting. The most popular one that we do, Taste the Rainbow. That's my outfit. Put a rainbow on your plate. We do this basically with like pre-K through second grade, but it could be any grade. And we talk about fruits and vegetables. The importance of fruits and vegetables in the diet, you know, why they're important. And a lot of the really younger kids, it's just trying to get them to try new things. And in a classroom setting with their friends and their teachers, it's amazing how often they will try things and they'll be like, you know, I like that. And one of the cool things, I have worked in hospitals, I've worked in community nutrition. One of the cool things about schools is I get to see those kids again. So I get to, when I'm walking in the lunchroom, have them say, hey, fruit lady, look what I'm eating. So, you know, it's really fun to kind of see that follow up and say, okay, at least they know they should be eating it. Dairy presentation is another one that we do. This is usually, teachers will schedule this around the time that they take a field trip to the dairy. So they've seen the cows, they've seen how they're milked, what they eat, and then we come in and talk about dairy foods. Again, why they're important, why we need to be eating them, the variety. And I like to take out like different kinds of cheese. My goal is there's something else out there besides Kraft singles. And not all cheese has to be yellow to be good. So again, just trying to expose kids to things in a safe setting where they're willing to try things. And then the most fun part about that one is at the end, we make sometimes dairy food, we make ice cream. Teach them how to do the ice cream in the little bags. And if it's older kids, then I'll even talk about chemistry of how ice melting, you need salt, and it gets colder. We go into all of that with some of the like older kids. So that is always fun. That's a very popular one. All right. We didn't have it on there, but we also have done things with grains. So go in and talk about grains, take different grains so they can see what it looks like before it gets ground up, and try, again, different foods made from different grains. Harrison Hill, this is one we've done for probably at least 10 years. They focus on a continent every year, and at the end of the year when they kind of do their wrap-up, they have us come in, and we're one of the sessions that classes can sign up for, and we talk about foods that are native to that continent, and then again, always take samples for students to try. So that is like an all-day process, and it usually takes 2 or 3 of us from our office just because there are so many kids to get everything passed out, so they have time to try things. Garden clubs, this is another fun one. Kind of ties in with the fruit and vegetables, but it's more geared to, okay, what can we grow in Indiana? What fruits and vegetables do we grow in Indiana? What do the seeds look like? One of my favorite to take out is spinach seeds, because spinach seeds, if y'all know, don't look anything like a spinach plant. So taking those out for kids so they can see what it starts and what it grows into. Another really fun one to take out is Brussels sprouts. Every once in a while, Meyer and Kroger will sell Brussels sprouts on the stock. And I've actually had staff people come down from all over the building saying, I hear you have Brussels sprouts. I've never seen those before. So again, we've educated staff as well about how things grow. And then we leave the seeds for the garden club. Sometimes they plant them in their garden, sometimes they send them home with kids. So that's always fun. We do healthy snacks. So again, using My Plate to say, okay, how can we evaluate your snack? Is it healthy? If it's not healthy, what can we do to make it healthier? And then just really individualized presentations as requested by teachers. If there's something that they think nutrition ties in, we'll figure it out. The very last one I did before COVID, or fourth graders were doing deep learning with GMOs. And they called and they said, can you come and talk about GMOs? And I'm like, sure. And I had to learn about GMOs to be able to do that, because that's not my area of expertise. And I learned a lot, and I have been a lot of fun going and talking to students about GMOs and, you know, how it relates to our food supply and how it relates to the food that we serve students in Fort Wayne Community Schools. So, you know, like I said, we haven't been able to do it this year, and I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that we get to go back in the classroom next year.
How many registered dietitians do we have?
Well, there are 5 of us all together. 3 in my position, and then Candy is a registered dietitian, and then our supervisor of the central kitchen part is also a registered dietitian. Very unusual for school districts to have that many registered dietitians.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
I
other
hope you
questions for
I hope
Kathy?
you get to go into schools next year, too.
Oh, I hope so.
It's obvious that I like registered dietitians because I keep hiring them. So we say, well, how do we do all of this? How do we feed 30,000 students, and how do we coordinate this whole business? So in our administration office, which is the front part of the Nutrition Process Center offices, we have 3 registered dietitians, and we lovingly call them coordinators because they're responsible for 20 schools each. And I ask them to treat this as if they were their own business. So they're responsible for everything that happens in there. And then each dietitian is responsible for menus, planning menus for a different segment of our population. We have 1 purchasing agent, an IT personnel who's responsible for all of our hardware, supports all of our hardware, keeps it running, fixes inventory when it goes down. The entire NutriKids program crashed this morning, and that's what that function for that person is. We also have 2 secretaries, and then myself as a director. Our central kitchen has 40 to 50 employees, frontline staff, and then they have 5 department managers. They also have 2 secretaries who perform various clerical duties, not clinical, sorry, various clerical duties to keep track of staff as well as orders from the elementary schools for meals. We deliver meals overnight to all elementary schools utilizing 4 regular driving routes. And then we have also 1 commodity driver who delivers bulk product from our warehouse. We bring in semi-loads of product, and mainly commodity products, and then we distribute it among the schools from our own warehouse on Ludwig Road. There are 2 staff members working in the warehouse who facilitate all these deliveries from the vendors, as well as getting the product ready to go out to our schools when they need it. And it is common to accept multiple deliveries from vendors daily. It's not uncommon to have 3 semi-loads pull up to our back door in any given day. You know how big a semi-load is? Pretty big. Takes the 2 of them all day long to get it all put away. And then we also have a maintenance engineer who keeps the entire processing plant as well as the administrative offices going. Our engineer is not only responsible for keeping the lights on and the heat on and the cooling on and all of those things, he also has to know every single piece of machinery that's in our plant and has to know how to fix it to keep us running. We track, if we're down more than 15 minutes, we track that, because I can't afford to have people standing around waiting for a piece of equipment to get repaired and back up and running. So there's a lot of PMs that go on and preventive maintenance that happens, and this particular person is invaluable to our operation.
What's a day time for the central kitchen? Like, you guys get in at 8 and leave at 5? Or?
We start at 6 a.m. and we usually leave around, the second shift leaves around 3:30. On a good day, 2:30.
So you run 2 shifts?
We do run 2 shifts. We run a 6-hour shift from 6 to noon and a second shift from 8:30 to whenever they're finished for the day. We do ask our employees to have a flexible in time, and so they don't get to leave until the work is done for that day. The individuals mentioned above support meals for all of our elementary schools who have one manager at each school, 6 private schools, meals for 2 daycares in the community, and 3 meals per day, 365 days a year for the Allen County Corrections Department.
So, a question on that, does that mean they subcontract their meals out to the district?
Yes.
So we get
We've
paid
been-
by the parochial schools or the Allen County?
We've been to them, yes. The Allen County Corrections Department Title 35 is a type of a work release program for not so violent offenders, and it's a rehab program for them. We also have 16 cooking kitchens, which employ anywhere from 5 to 20 staff members, and a manager and assistant manager in those kitchens. We have 2 kitchens which relieve satellite meals from Northside High School, Cass, Nebraska, and Cass, Anthus. Now, they each have cooking equipment in their schools, but there's only one person in their schools, and if that clientele grows beyond a certain point, they wouldn't have time to do the cooking, so we satellite from Northside to them. Even though our classroom aides do not work directly for nutrition services, we pay a portion of these salaries when they help with meal service time. All right, let's talk a little bit about the budget. That's always fun to talk about money, isn't it? So our yearly budget is about $20 million. We spend about a $1.5 to $1.75 million per month on food cost, supply cost, payrolls, repairs, utilities, all of that stuff. Indirect cost to the general fund because we use their electricity and we use their heat, so we pay some indirect cost. And then equipment and replacement for new kitchens, and we'll talk a little bit later about what Nutrition Services has done for the district for that infrastructure of new kitchens. And then came Friday the 13th, March 13, 2020. We received word that all school buildings will be closed beginning Monday, and now how do we feed our students? The administrative staff of Nutrition Services was called together that afternoon to brainstorm. We put a plan in place and decided the best option for the students would be to continue to feed them from their neighborhoods. So we sent out notice to all elementary managers of a meeting for the following Monday, since elementary schools are mostly neighborhood schools. Because all staff of Fort Wayne Community Schools was going to be paid during the shutdown of schools, we determined those who worked the feeding plan would receive extra pay for the hours they worked producing and passing out meals to the students. We finalized the staffing plan after meeting with the elementary managers, and all staff was determined at the process center, and we began packing meals to be delivered overnight, Monday night, Tuesday morning at 2 a.m. to the elementary schools. In the meantime, fortunately, the USDA had been working to put a waiver in place that would allow us to begin the summer feeding program right then and there. We didn't have to wait till June to implement summer feeding. And that waiver included a non-congregate clause so that our students could pick up meals and take them home. They did not have to eat on site. Normally, the summer program, the children have to eat on site for us to be able to be reimbursed. But because of this waiver, we were allowed to send food home with the students. Plan in place, staff secured, we're ready to go. So within 16 working hours, 2 8-hour days, we had a plan in place. All of our staff were determined and ready, set to go. Meals were produced and delivered, and we began feeding students for all elementary schools daily. We continued to serve those meals through the summer months, and the schools, because the schools were the only feeding sites, everything else in town had been shut down due to COVID. 9,000 to 11,000 meals were served daily through the end of June. That's March through June. And as we have seen in past summers, the meals dropped off after the 4th of July to around 5,000 per day. It was a very successful summer of feeding the students in the community.
To recap, Friday, March 13th, probably in the afternoon, you find out schools are closed. You have the weekend. Monday, you call your team together, and you say, how are we gonna get this done? And Tuesday,
I called the administrative team together Friday afternoon. We put in some extra hours Friday
over the
afternoon.
weekend,
And then
so
sent
by
them home for the
Tuesday
weekend.
morning, you're delivering over 11,000 meals
Correct,
to our students in our community.
correct.
Had you ever done this before?
Never.
Had you been tasked to plan this before?
I've been doing this for 45 years, and I've never had this ever happen before.
Had you been tasked to plan this before?
No.
Had you dreamed that you would have to do something like this before?
No.
Kudos to you and your team.
Thank you.
No kidding.
I learned a long time ago in this business that I can put all kinds of plans in place for this event or that event, but when the time comes, I do what I have to do when I have to do it to get the job done.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Candy, did I read something in the paper this morning that talked about the president's desire to create a very large summer feeding program?
You might have. I did not read the paper
Okay.
this morning. I don't read the paper
I mean, I
very
just saw the
often.
headline, but I had to think to myself that it's probably going to involve us in some manner if that's the case.
Absolutely. We feed every year, summer feeding, and we're not ever going to stop that.
Right.
Our community needs that so badly that will be on the docket.
Will this summer be back to how it has been, do you think, or we'll still be doing what? we
It
did?
will, with a whole lot of summer school, thank you to Dr. Daniel.
Oh.
So in a normal summer, we have about 23 to 25 feeding sites. This year, we have 43. Thank you so much. And so we're busy right now putting all that plan together. We have a little more than 16 hours to do it, but we're putting all those plans together, and we will be feeding students throughout the district and in the parks and the libraries and all of those normal sites that we normally feed in.
How do you, like, estimate, I know you've been doing it a long time, but you had 11,000 meals and you drop off to 5,000. How do you come up with that figure? One day it's just a little less, or does it just continually get a little less, or?
It does continually get a little less. We know by experience that at 4th of July, things are going to go because people are starting to take vacations before school starts again. So we know that's going to happen. I have a wonderful staff. They are quick to turn directions on a dime, and we watch that very closely from day to day to day.
How many students did you feed the summer before all of this happened? I'm just interested to see how those numbers changed from the previous summer.
The summer before, we served about 4,000 meals a day in the summer feeding. So doing it out of the schools was a great service and was very beneficial to us, not only financially, but the students. So here we go with the 2021 school year began on August 12th. How things have changed from one school year to another. As we begin the new school year with COVID, some things had to change. Breakfast and lunch both were served in the classroom in order to ensure social distancing. In the elementary schools, breakfast and lunch was delivered to the hallways outside the classroom. And that in itself is a feat because there's only one person in every elementary school. And they are taking those lines up and down the hallways to feed our students so that the students wouldn't be commingling with other students in the hallways. They come out of their classrooms, get their meals, and go back in. Desks were used in the cafeterias instead of tables in some of our secondary schools to also ensure that social distancing. Menus were pared down to only 2 entree offerings in the secondary school. There's a couple reasons for that. We had lower clientele because some 50%, 40 to 50% were out on remote. The other 50% were only there every other day. And we have had a huge amount of trouble getting product from our manufacturers since COVID came. They are also all experiencing the staff shortage that we are. Take-home meals were provided daily for the blended learning students for the day that they wouldn't be there. And 5-day meal kits for remote learning students were available each Tuesday night at all high schools.
Do you know, sorry to jump ahead, about how many remote students are picking up meals?
We started out with, oh, I knew you would ask me that question. I don't have it right here. We started out gangbusters, and you'll see that a little bit later on the charts that I have provided. And it too has diminished as time has gone on. But we're still doing about 4,000 to 5,000 meals each Tuesday night. So some of our programs that we offer also had to change. Oops. We discontinued the fresh fruit and veggie program for the school year. We felt that the teachers had enough to deal with without that, and because the student population wasn't as large as normal, we chose to discontinue that. Although we continued to support the pathway to quality with a snack program. Tours of the central kitchen were also discontinued for the school year. The bake sale did not happen before winter break as usual. However, we were able to hold the bake sale virtually the week before Good Friday, which was embraced wholeheartedly from the Gar-Isle staff, and we were able to exceed our goal of 1,200. We certainly appreciated this. This was a learning experience for all. A virtual sale of anything is hard to pull off. They did great. All of our kitchens produced, again, amazing product, and everybody was wowed. So impact on staffing. Staffing is a continual issue with illness and quarantine. At one point, we had 13 elementary managers on quarantine for 2 weeks at the same time, all at the same time. Fortunately, during the time that the high schools were closed down, we sent all of our high school staff into the elementary schools to be cross-trained as elementary managers. So we had coverage for that quarantine. Crisis averted. We also experienced 25 of our 40 process center employees on quarantine at the same time because of an exposure. During those times, it was not an option that schools should close. My boss and I talked about it, and there was no way we're going to close any school because we can't feed the kids. So during these times, we again tapped staff from our high school kitchens to work at the process center, allowing us to continue meal service. We also worked very closely with the local health department, and we were able to remain open even during those high spikes in COVID cases. Staffing is better now, even though we still have an occasional issue, but the more people who are getting vaccinated, the less people have to go on quarantine. So it's really getting much better. What was the impact to meals? This chart shows you the elementary breakfast. The impact to meals that were provided to the students was significant. The blue bars represent the school year of 2018-19, which was our last normal school year. And the orange bars represent the 2021 school year so far. Elementary breakfast was down 38.4%. That's significant. Middle school breakfast. Middle school was impacted the most as we had a deficit of 70.6%.
I'm sorry, so Dr. Daniels, maybe more of a question for you than her. Can we extrapolate a third of our elementary kids roughly are remote learners and 70% are remote in the different G days?
Yeah, so right now we're about 24% for elementary, but the high schools could still reaching pretty high numbers. And plus, it's every other day, so that compounds that number.
And let's go back to that. You can see that, how it dipped, and now it's beginning to go back up because our elementary students are coming back to the classroom.
Right.
High school breakfast looks a little weird, doesn't it? How come all of a sudden they had more breakfast than normal? As you can see, we had a big jump. The biggest reason for this was because we were serving 5-day meal kits out of the high school, so all of those meals got tracked at that high school. And each one of those 5-day kits had a breakfast in it, which was different than high school breakfast usage. They don't tend to do that. They don't want to get up, I guess. Lunch looks pretty much the same. We had an overall difference of 38.6%. And Middle school lunch went down, and that was primarily because there was a lot of remote students. Our overall difference was 66.1. And then lastly, high school had a difference of 52.1%. On this next slide, financially, this is what COVID meant to us. Because as you know, if we don't provide meals for the students, we don't have any revenue. So in the normal school year of 2018-19, we received about $15,580,000 in revenue. During the year of 2021, COVID hit, and we only received $10,857,500 dollars in revenue. That gives us a deficit of $4,723,000 odd. It would be a lot worse if we weren't on the summer feeding program, because the summer feeding program gives us a higher revenue per meal. So we were very fortunate for that. Yes?
I want to make sure I understand this revenue deficit. Is that just a reduction? And I'm trying to compare that to whether you're operating at a loss in producing the meal.
We didn't operate at a loss because we didn't have as much product cost. We still had the same amount of staffing costs because we didn't lay anyone off.
Okay.
We made up in other ways.
But I mean, when you have that almost $5 million decline, your food costs were, I mean, your labor cost was the same, but your food costs had to be less from that year to year.
Correct.
Okay.
And realistically, we probably had a close to break-even situation.
Okay.
Because in a typical year, our efficiency brings us about $1 million operating capital. And so that $1 million went away, and so we came in pretty close to breaking even.
So in either that $15 million or $10 million figure, how much of that is federal revenue?
All of it.
All of it is?
All of it.
So does our general fund contribute to your food budget?
No. We get absolutely nothing from the general fund.
Okay.
We are expected to stand on our own. Federal meal revenues is a grant, and we work under a grant, and there are regulations and things we can spend our money on and things we cannot spend our money on.
What about the tie-dye clothing? Is that federal?
You know, the district has a policy, we don't pay for clothing at all, so she had to buy that herself.
I haven't seen that on our logo store either. It's all pretty boring stuff.
And I just noticed you even have a matching lanyard.
And shoelaces.
My gosh.
And normally she has rainbow socks too.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm.
I have shoes, I have socks, I have a collection. It's kind of gotten out of control.
Cool.
So this is money that goes to pay for the physical food and then all the labor and the transportation?
Transportation, our vehicle fleet, new vehicles, repairs to the vehicles.
Kitchen equipment?
Kitchen equipment.
Cafeteria tables and chairs?
We partner with the district for cafeteria tables because the National School Lunch Grant will only allow us to pay 100% of anything that's used only for nutrition services.
Okay.
So when the cafeteria is used for multiple programs, we partner with the district for that.
And then you said we outsource or vend to like the juvenile detention center and a couple of parochial schools. About how much
6
revenue?
parochial schools, 2 daycares in the community, and then the corrections.
You know approximately how much revenue that is?
We, this year, it will make up that $5 million when we're all said and done.
And she's open for more business.
Okay, good. I like that. That was one of my questions. Actually.
Yes, as soon as
Can
we
do
get
more of that?
as soon as we get our staff back, post-COVID, we do intend to do that. So some of the takeaways we have: nutrition services can rise to any occasion, and we also make it look easy, even though I guarantee you it is not.
Yeah.
We are a team. Each one of our staff that we had to move around into different kitchens, into different jobs, not one of them complained, not one of them said, that's not my job, I'm not doing it. They all are part of a team and they rose to the occasion. We are also, everyone on the team is passionate about the nutritional health and well-being of the students in Fort Wayne Community Schools. COVID hurt us financially, but we will bounce back as students return to our classrooms next year. So I just want to touch a little bit on my legacy to Fort Wayne Community Schools. It's always been exciting to me to work with construction. So I have spent the last 12 years renovating kitchens and paying for every dime of it out of nutrition services money. So in Miami and Shawnee were the first two. We did those in 2010. Northwood was in 2013. Snyder High School in 2014. Memorial Park in 2016. Cass, Nebraska, and Anthus came up suddenly, and so 2017, I did not have that on the docket, but put it on quickly because we were spending almost $1 million in refrigeration racks at the NPC, but we got it all done. Lane Middle School and Blackhawk Middle School was in 2018. Lakeside and Jefferson came in 2019. Each one of these is a brand new kitchen, complete with brand new equipment. Portage and Tolles came in 2020, as well as the renovation of the coolers, freezers, and office space and dry storage space at Northrop. Wayne High School is slated, already committed for 2022. We also put elementary walk-ins. Most of our kitchens have roll-in, standalone refrigerators, which take up all kinds of room, and we're constantly fixing them. They break quite a bit. So elementary walk-ins was the way to go. And we did Forest Park, Glenwood Park, Haley, Price, St. Joe Central, Washington Center, and Weiser Park. Lindley and Waynedale are also slated for the summer of '22. Lindley and Waynedale have already been paid for. I know they're going to get done. So we have prepared a little bit of a video for you. I hope you enjoy it. So could we roll the video? My name is Candace Hager, and I am Director of Food Service for Fort Wayne Community Schools. So I have a total of about 20 years overall with FWCS. Nutrition Services is responsible for the health and well-being nutritionally for the students of Fort Wayne Community Schools. We provide meals, breakfast, lunch, fresh fruit and veggie program, afternoon snack, as well as consultation, education in the classroom, and different things like that. We have 250 employees overall that work in the Nutrition Services Department. We have a budget of about $20 million, and we have a central kitchen that supplies meals for the elementary schools. And then we have 17 or 18 cooking kitchens that cook on site and prepare fresh for the students in the secondary schools. Well, when we got the notice schools were going to be shut down, we immediately started laying plans as to how to continue to get meals to those students. The government provided us with a non-congregate feeding waiver so that we could provide meals for the students to take home. Within 24 hours, we had a plan in place and began serving our students meals to take home at every elementary school in the district. We felt that it was important to keep it in the neighborhood, in the elementary schools, so that the majority of the students would have close access to those meals. Mostly, I'm proud of the staff that I have. They have stepped up to the plate. They have done whatever is necessary in order to feed the students of FWCS. This year has been a really difficult year. Every day there's been a new change that we've had to make. We've risen to the occasion each and every time because those staff members have such a regard and such a passion for feeding students. Well, my hope for the future in this department is that they have a new director that is as passionate about feeding students as I am. I really feel that in this urban culture, in this urban community, there are so many students that do not get fed except for what they get at school. And it's very important to be passionate about making sure those students continue to be fed and to continue to be taken care of nutritionally? I think the biggest thing that people would be surprised to learn is that we don't get any money from the district to pay for nutrition service employees or the food costs or anything that happens out here. We only get money when we sell meals or when we give out meals. We stand on our own, we pay all of our own bills, so if we don't provide meals for students, we don't financially get reimbursed. I think we want the general public to know that this is not an easy task to serve the nutritional needs of 29,000 plus students, but Nutrition Services has a way of making it easy. My advice would be to continue to love students, to continue to be passionate, to continue to support the employees of this department so that they can do the jobs that they are born to do.
Proving your retirement. Well, it's well-deserved.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations to you and your staff.
I just have one disclaimer for that video. Bouffant hairdos are not attractive. And I asked Jen to take out to Photoshop my fat, but she couldn't do that.
So what's great words of wisdom there? What's the one piece of advice you give your successor?
Enlist the help of all of her staff while making decisions. I've made it a practice to, they're my cabinet, like Dr. Daniel has a cabinet, and when we have a decision to make or a plan to put together, they all come together in the bullpen, and we all make those decisions together. I try to run a very democratic society, although I do realize that when there's a difference of opinion, I have to make that final decision.
I tell my daughters that's a benevolent dictatorship, but they don't seem to like it. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So how long have you been with Fort Wayne Community Schools?
This time 12 years, all in all about 20 years. This is my third time back.
Wow.
I love you all so much. I just kept coming back. The first time I left was because the director hired somebody to from outside to run a cafeteria and said, well, why don't you go get her job then? So I went to East Allen and became a cafeteria manager. The second time I came back because I was in college as a returning adult and I needed a job so that I could help pay for my education. And then this time as director. I will say that I have worked in every single department in this whole district. Wow. I've washed pots and pans, I've cooked, I've baked. I have not been a coordinator. So I guess I have not been in every single position.
Have you worked outside of school, or have you always worked for schools?
I have worked outside of school. One of my lives was in clinical. I worked for Parkview Whitley Hospital for 10 years. I worked early on as director of nutrition for IPFW. So I've had higher learning experience. I could say I much prefer elementary or food service, school food service, very much.
I have missed this. How long have you served in the role of director for Fort Wayne Community Schools?
Well, July 23 coming up would have been 12 years. So I consider it 12 years. The last 2 years was like 2 extra years.
I actually had the opportunity to visit Central Kitchen on a field trip with my son, Dean, and it is like a well-oiled machine. It's incredible. The work that's done, like the number of staff that's there, just everything that goes on. I didn't realize how much food, that you actually prepared food. We got to walk through and see, and smell the cookies being baked. We got to see everything, and it was really nice. It was really cool.
I do have to give a shout out to my predecessor. She put together an incredible department, and I inherited it.
Okay, are you open to tours now or in the summer perhaps?
Yes, we are open to tours. We probably won't get any from our schools this year because the district has kiboshed due to COVID.
But if some board
tours.
members wanted to come and
If you want to
haven't
come,
been
just
doing
give me a call.
Okay.
We
How
do
many days
one-on-one
left do we
tours.
have to do that, Candy? How many days?
Pardon?
How many days left do we have to do that, call you?
Well, that is open-ended.
Okay, great.
Because I have promised to stay on until the new director's in place. The
Fabulous.
process is complete.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Originally, the date was May 3rd, which is next Monday, but we're working that process out. So, given all that you know about nutrition services and me, I have one last thing to say. Thanks for the memories.
So did you inherit the new nutrition center?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so that predated.
It had only
your
been
return.
built, they had only been in it a year when I came.
Okay, okay, just wondering.
Yeah. And thank you, Mr. Corona, for making me cry first thing tonight.
Candy, I do have a question. With this year's summer feeding program, will that non-congregate clause be in effect, or?
Yes, we just got word Wednesday or Thursday of last week that USDA has extended that to June 30th of 2022.
Oh, okay, great.
So the entire next school year, we will be having the higher rate of reimbursement.
Nice.
And we will be able to feed our kids non-congregately too. So those who will be on remote learning, there will be a certain number of students, they will continue to be able to get the 5-day meal kits.
Great. And so this summer, if a student, they couldn't go to their neighborhood elementary school, but they could go to their neighborhood library and pick up lunch and go back home and eat it.
Summer feeding is designed to serve anyone, if it's an open site, 0 to 18 years old. We do have a few closed sites this year because of some of the summer school that we're running. Those sites, a few of them will be closed, but most all sites are open sites and anyone can come. If you remember right, last year, from March on, we had all open sites at our elementary schools because we wanted the entire community to also be able to reap the benefit of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much. And I have no idea what I'm going to be doing in retirement. I have worked all my life. I don't know anything different.
You'll figure it out.
Okay, I guess we are ready for our board member comments, and we're probably all a little bit hungrier now. Talking about food. Steve?
Yes, I had a chance about 10 days ago to spend a Friday with the Roberts brothers. In the morning, I went to the construction trades building, and because of the restrictions, the statewide Skills USA competition was held around the state. We were one of the regional sites, and I went to watch one of our students compete, Angela Carvajal, in carpentry. I don't know the results, but she has an internship with Wygan Construction right now, and I think the expectation is that Angela is going to be a carpenter, get into their apprenticeship program, does fabulous work. So it was fun to see her. She was the only female competing in that competition. So I did that, dashed home, and the other Roberts brother, Jeff, had his new tech students doing business pitches, and so he had a number of people from the community. Dr. Daniel was on the call, but so we listened to student teams pitch their idea of a business operation that they hoped to create. I think a couple that I remember was an indoor water park. Another one was an anime coffee shop. And the students really went through the process of trying to understand marketing and communications and putting together a capital stack to support it. But it was really, really interesting to see the wide variety that our students are doing in a single morning. And anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I had a question for Dr. Daniel and Kathy Friend, and that is just your take on the state budget. I don't know if you've got comments later, but if you want to reserve your comments later, but I am curious as to how we did. I know they got a really good revenue report, and some of that is coming our way, but I'm just kind of curious as to whether we are satisfied with all that.
I would say we're very satisfied. This was a really remarkable increase that they provided compared to prior years, and I hope I remember right. I think it's 4.9, 4.5, something like that is where we ended up. I think one of the most remarkable things, they put a nice increase in for special education for all of the categories, or all the major categories, 10% the first year and 5% the second year. That is really something that we have worked towards, because funding that gap helps out the rest of our fund, because we don't have to subsidize as much that way. They also gave an increase to ELL, and I apologize, I don't know the exact change. It was a significant number. I think it went from 22.5 to 27.5, something like that, $1 million statewide. It's a small amount of our total budget, so it's from a revenue standpoint, I would like to see that number get bigger, but nevertheless, it got a lot of attention. That's one of the things that we've been working on also. So, and then the CTE funding did not get, the pieces that were going to get eliminated did not get eliminated, so that was a positive thing as well. So I think overall, I would say we're pretty pleased with how it turned out.
Are the runs out on a different? They are?
Yeah. Yep. It's, keep in mind, it's a simulation. Part of the, I think, and I could forward that to you all, but it's actually out on their website too, on the legislative website. But they, there's, I hesitate to ever talk about total numbers, because that takes into consideration enrollment projections a couple of years out, and I don't really like to look at it that way. I like to look at it on a per student basis. So when you look at, sometimes people get a little fired up because they might see some other school district whose dollars percentage went way up, but then if you look at their enrollment that they've got in there, it might be a larger number too. So you got to just be careful when you look at that simulation, and in the end, it'll be the number, the right number, based on what true enrollment is. It won't be based on what that simulation has in it. It'll be based on real numbers. So, but I just think from a percentage standpoint, on a per pupil basis, and complexity, which, as you all know, was something we were concerned about, and we had a presentation on. Complexity also went up. We still have concerns about the poverty factor and where that's coming from. That is still something being discussed, but the per pupil portion of the complexity went up as part of that, included in that 4.9 and 4.5. So, so that's very positive, because our fear was that complexity was going to go the other direction. So that's good.
Kathy, does the virtual student 100% funding, that expires, doesn't it? So that next year, if
Yes.
we would have students that are virtual, they're funded at 85%?
Yes. The House version actually kept the 100% going. Senate version went back to 85, and the final conference committee went back down to 85%. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Raleigh?
I have no comment.
Jennifer?
I have a couple shout outs along those lines that we just talked about. I just wanted to thank our Fort Wayne School families members and our community members who continue to support public education. Many people wrote and called our legislators at the needed time, wrote letters to the editor. And I think it is very important, although we are very, very grateful for what we saw this year in the surplus, I think that it is an ongoing education factor for us as a community to learn about our public education dollars and how they are being distributed to us and where those Indiana state education dollars are going to. We also saw some voucher expansion and the creation of education scholarship accounts, which all pull from that same pot of money. So I just want to continue people to get out there, educate yourself, find information, and stay in tune of where we are in Indiana education, because your voices matter, your votes matter, and our schools need you to have a thriving community with fully funded public education. So thank you all who did support us during this crucial legislation session. My second shout out is a little bit more fun, and it's a shout out to Principal David West and the staff and students at Northside High School. Noah, Ann, and I recently took a tour, and prior to that, I had only ever been able to be in the commons area, the gym,
And a long, long time ago, I was in their pool. And so I was able to see what they did with that pool area and made a beautiful professional learning workroom for the staff. And I was amazed at the overall architecture of that school and how beautiful it is to our community and those who are blessed to be able to go to school there. Mr. West gave us a great tour. He told us about some programs that were possibly coming in the future, along with their academic options, some machining options possibly. We saw a new graphic design program, which is exciting to me because I'm a graphic artist, and that's my profession. I'd like to see more people in that profession. We also saw the dance studio and 2 dance studios actually, so some really fabulous spaces for our students. Northside has a great history, and many of our community leaders are part of that history, including a few of those who are here tonight. And I look forward to seeing students who walk those halls today become our area community leaders tomorrow. Thank you. Awesome.
Maria?
Well, I have received my first handwritten note from a 4th grader at Weiser Park. So my son attends Weiser Park, which is in the 4th grade. And one of his classmates today said, "We throw away a lot of food. We should compost." And to which their teacher said, "Well, maybe you should write a school board member." And Elijah, I don't know if he was excited about this or not, but he said, "My mom's a school board member. You could write her a letter."
Just like that, huh?
Just like that. I would assume just like that. I don't know if he's still as excited about my opportunity here, but so Ruby Lyons from Weiser Park, 4th grader, she writes that she's angry that people throw away instead of composting, and she would like us to consider putting compost bins in every classroom of every FWCS school, as it helps the environment and it's educational. Signed, Ruby. So Ruby, I would just like to thank you for your letter, and I received it, and I've read it to all my board members, and so I'm sure people will consider that option. I'm sure there's probably some health risks to composting in classrooms, but maybe outside. I know Weiser Park does have their gardens outside, so maybe that's something we could do, and then use the compost for the gardens. But was very excited and touched to get this letter from Ruby. I think that just being a part of the process of knowing that you can write people in a position where we are in position to make changes at the school, that she's utilizing those lines of communication to make change. And so that's exciting to see as a 4th grader, our students doing that. So I think I was more excited about that. I don't know much about composting, and it doesn't really seem like my cup of tea, but we did get reusable straws at the Norman household. So that was our Earth Day contribution. No more disposable straws at the Norman household. So I believe that's it for me tonight.
Well, thank you.
Julie? I'd like to give a shout out to you, Ann, for your outreach program this past school year to all the, all the PTAs here in Fort Wayne, and talking to them about the legislative process and about the importance of contacting legislators and how easy it should be to you, once you get over that, once you write that first one or make that first phone call, I think it gets easier. But I really think that's an important initiative that you started, and I hope that we'll keep it up every year because,
Yes.
we
have talked about that and said, this needs to be an ongoing thing, because once we start the legislative session, we're missing a lot of people. We can even start in the fall.
Right.
Just the education piece alone is so valuable, and the connections we make and getting to meet all those passionate teachers and parents. So it was, even though the end result wasn't what I wanted, it was great getting to meet all those people.
Right,
so,
right. But I just, like you said, it is important, I think, that we keep that up, because every, something comes up, issues come up every legislative session that we need to stay on top of. And also, Kathy, thanks to you. I know you spend time sometimes going to Indianapolis and working with senators and representatives and with our lobbyists. And but there were a lot of positives in this budget, and I think that, you know, they listen to you, especially on ELL and special education, and have begun to understand how important that is. And when it's not funded properly, how destructive it can be, and damaging it can be to an overall district budget. So thanks for your efforts too. So I think that's it.
I want to thank Principal David West, too, for the tour of Northside. As I was like Jennifer, but I'd never been to the pool, only to the gym pretty much, and cafeteria 100 years ago to take the SAT. So it was really neat to see the historic nature and the great structure that Northside is, and get to see some of the students and teachers and learn about their passions for education. I'd reiterate what Jennifer said, what Julie said, and Ann said about trying to stay engaged. And in that vein, I'm sure Ann, I'm going to throw Ann out there and say, we'd love to talk to parents over the summer, too, if they want, or if there's any other groups that have interest.
Start next fall, for sure.
As an ongoing battle. But in that vein, we'd be remiss as we called on state representatives and senators to give more to education. As I've heard Senator Liz Brown say, they could use that money for roads or broadband. I think it's a huge issue throughout the state, and I do think this is the right thing to do, and I don't know when you got $2 billion facing you have any other choices, but I do appreciate them supporting the education funding and trying to get us back on par. There's still work to be done, and we'll still continue to push and challenge them, but we appreciate the support this year. Thank you.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention, I want to mention Dr. Daniel, you too. I know you coordinated with a lot of area superintendents, talking to them, talking to legislators, and the article that was in the newspaper that you put together that may have hit a nerve, an exposed nerve that should have been touched.
Well, I also have 3 appreciations. First of all, yes, back to the legislators. I think they did listen, because we did see movement in, as Kathy said, the complexity, special ed, ELL. But again, thanks to all of you as well. Great amount of effort, so appreciated. But our teachers as well and our community, so just need to carry forward. Another thing we have beginning this Wednesday, and again, I'm thanking our teachers for their willingness to engage in this process, and that's version 2.0 of curriculum math and ELA. So that's a process. We're not reinventing the math and ELA, but we are wanting to see it truly matching those most important standards, making sure that that's flowing and allowing our teachers, here's the scope and sequence, but use your expertise to take students from point A to point B. Every one of our classrooms is unique. So therefore, teachers using that expertise to move forward and truly expecting to see gains in our math and ELA. And then finally as well, there were times when we were wondering, would we be able to continue having the district remain open during the pandemic? And our food service, because of leadership of Mrs. Hagar, I will tell you, I never doubted, though, that they would stay open, because you heard that kind of attitude. This is a no-quit attitude. We're going to make it work. Yeah. And I really appreciate that. That's very unique, because I think others would have probably said, hey, I want to tell you, Dr. Daniel, we cannot make this work. Can you give us another week to 2 weeks? And that never happened in food service. So again, thank you for that, and enjoy your next life. So it's well earned.
We're a get-her-done type people.
Well, thank you. Mm-hmm. I'll give my shout out to the parents that I did talk to. Like I said, my end goal wasn't what I expected, although, you know, we are grateful for the budget that was presented. And even though ESAs and vouchers have come into existence or have expanded, you know, what I did learn from doing all those presentations is that our parents are passionate about our district, our teachers are passionate about our district. So even though the end result wasn't what I wanted, I know that we are in great shape because of our parents who love our schools, and our teachers who love our schools. Dr. Daniel's doing a wonderful job for us. So and we're just, you know, moving in the right direction. So I think we're going to remain the great district that we are, get even better. So I'm glad I got to meet the teachers and the parents that I spoke to, and thank you to the rest of you for helping me out during those Zoom meetings, which was interesting, but we got it down to a science, I think, and we did really well. The last thing I wanted to do is just reiterate our non-discrimination policy. Just some things that have been presented in the paper and an email I received that was, they thought we were one district when we are certainly not. So I just wanted to read our non-discrimination policy once again. Thornton Community Schools does not tolerate the unjust or prejudicial treatment of any individual or group's actual or perceived race, color or ethnic group, religion or religious practice, national origin, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, political affiliation, age, marital status, military status, veteran status, disability, or any other basis prohibited by state or federal law. And we voted on this probably a couple years ago, so you know, all of us here on the board are thrilled about the diversity in our district. I know that's why a lot of us send our kids to Thornton Community Schools. We love the diversity that we have and the fact that we are open to all the walks of life, all people. So just wanted to reiterate our policy on that. So, so no other comments? Do we have a... Oh.
Move to close.
Second.
I don't have to say anything. You guys are ready to get out of here. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I don't think we have any. I don't think anyone to speak.